Hello everyone, welcome back to the Future Force channel. Please subscribe and like my videos. Today we are going to dive deep into one of the most shocking and intense incidents of recent times, the massive drone assault on Moscow, where 93 Ukrainian drones ambushed the city at once, turning the capital into a zone of chaos and alarm. In this detailed review and explanation, we will analyze the event from different angles, including the exterior situation of the city during the attack, the interior response and defense mechanisms within the city, the performance of the drones themselves, their safety features or countermeasures, the unique aspects that made this attack stand out, the potential costs and economic consequences involved, and finally, we will wrap up with a thoughtful conclusion on what this means for the future of warfare and urban defense. The first thing to consider is the exterior, the visual scene, and the outside perspective when the drones began to enter Moscow's airspace. Imagine a city of more than 12 million people suddenly hearing the continuous buzzing and distant explosions across multiple districts. The exterior view was described as both terrifying and surreal. Skies were lit with anti-aircraft fire, flashes of interceptors striking or missing their targets, and several high-rise districts were forced into blackout mode to reduce visibility for the attacking drone. The skyline of Moscow, usually a symbol of modern power and historical architecture, turned into a battleground where streaks of smoke and flares replaced the usual calm of the night. This exterior chaos set the tone for the hours that followed, as residents tried to capture footage, share warnings, and seek shelter, while the government scrambled to mount a coordinated defense. The sheer number 93 drones overwhelmed the radar and interception grids, forcing emergency teams to prioritize key government and infrastructure buildings. Moving inside, the interior situation tells an even more revealing story. Inside the city, people in residential complexes were woken by air raid sirens and emergency alerts sent via mobile networks. The metro systems, which often serve as emergency shelters during high alert situations, began to see an influx of civilians rushing underground. In several government and military offices, interior defense operations were activated with rapid coordination between air defense operators, emergency response teams, and intelligence officers trying to track the origin and intended targets of the drones. The interiors of critical facilities like power plants, communication hubs, and defense ministry offices turned into command centers full of tension, flashing monitors, and constant radio chatter. Hospitals prepared emergency wards in anticipation of casualties, while firefighters were placed on high alert to respond to debris fires caused by downed drones. The interior feeling among the population was one of uncertainty and fear. People were unsure if this was just a first wave or part of a larger strategic strike. Parents tried to calm their children. Social media platforms were flooded with unverified reports, and the entire interior life of Moscow, from restaurants to late-night businesses, came to a standstill as the city essentially entered a lockdown-like state. This prolonged interior disruption is what made the event so impactful, because even when the physical damage was relatively contained in certain areas, the psychological and operational interior shutdown was city-wide. Now, let's evaluate the performance of these 93 Ukrainian drones. From the reports and analysis available, these drones were not all identical. A combination of reconnaissance drones, kamikaze drones, and possibly decoys were used to overwhelm Russian air defenses. The performance in terms of coordination was highly sophisticated. Launching such a swarm requires precise timing, GPS or satellite, guided navigation, and decentralized communication so that even if some drones are intercepted, the rest can proceed towards their objectives. Many of these drones reportedly manage to bypass initial radar detection by flying low or using stealthy materials. Performance-wise, they demonstrated endurance, range, and adaptability to changing conditions, including jamming and countermeasures. While Russian officials claimed to have intercepted the majority of them, even a fraction of successful hits on symbolic or strategic targets causes disproportionate political and psychological impact. The performance metric here is not just destruction, but disruption, and in that sense, the drones performed effectively. Regarding safety features, this is an ironic but important aspect in modern drone warfare. Many advanced drones come with features to minimize unintended civilian damage or to self-destruct in case they miss their target. However, in a conflict scenario of this scale, safety features are secondary to mission objectives. Reports suggest some drones had programmed fail-safes to crash in unpopulated areas if their guidance failed, while others may have carried only limited explosives to reduce wide-scale collateral damage. On the Russian side, safety features included emergency public warning systems, sirens, and the rapid activation of air defense systems to minimize damage to populated districts. Despite this, several minor injuries and property damages were reported. The safety debate here is less about the drones themselves and more about the preparedness of a city like Moscow to withstand a sudden and massive aerial incursion. The unique selling points of this incident, or rather, the unique factors that made this event stand out globally, include the unprecedented scale of the swarm, the deep penetration into one of the most heavily guarded airspaces in the world, and the psychological warfare element. Sending nearly 100 drones simultaneously into Moscow is not just a military tactic, but also a strategic message that even the heart of Russia is not immune to remote, low-cost, high-impact attacks. It demonstrated how modern conflicts are shifting from traditional front lines to asymmetric tactics that can disrupt capitals, economies, and public morale. Another unique aspect was the timing. This attack reportedly occurred during a period of heightened political tension, making its media impact even greater. As for the price, calculating the cost of such an operation versus the cost of defending against it is critical. Ukrainian drones used in such attacks often range from a few thousand to tens of thousands of dollars per unit, depending on their sophistication. Even at an average of $20,000 per drone, a swarm of 93 would represent under $2 million, a fraction of the cost it takes for a city like Moscow to operate its full-scale defense system, launch interceptor missiles that can cost hundreds of thousands each, and repair damages. This asymmetry in price makes drone warfare an attractive option for militaries or resistance forces with limited budgets but strategic ambitions. On the Russian side, the economic cost includes not only military interception expenses, but also the indirect costs of halted businesses, damaged infrastructure, and the global perception of vulnerability which can affect markets and investments. In conclusion, the drone ambush on Moscow marks another milestone in the evolution of warfare. It shows that no city, regardless of its size or military strength, is completely shielded from the modern tools of asymmetric conflict. The incident will likely push Russia to further strengthen its air defenses, invest in anti-drone technologies, and reconsider its urban emergency protocols. For Ukraine, it demonstrates an ability to project pressure deep behind enemy lines using relatively inexpensive technology. For the global audience, it is a reminder that the future of war is less about tanks and jets and more about swarms, cyber coordination, and rapid strikes that can paralyze a metropolis overnight. This event will be studied by defense analysts, policymakers, and military strategists worldwide as an example of how 21st century conflicts will look. Fast, remote, psychological, and disproportionate in cost-to-impact ratio. Whether you view this as a necessary tactic of resistance or an escalation of urban warfare, one thing is certain: the skies over major cities are no longer just for airplanes and weather patterns. They are potential battlegrounds where a few dozen machines can challenge the security of a nation. If you want to stay informed about such major developments, make sure you are subscribed to the Future Force channel and keep following our updates. These are not just news stories, they are glimpses into the future of defense, technology, and geopolitics.